Batman is finally out this weekend, and we finally get our look and feel of what Robert Pattinson's iteration of Batman will be. With that said, now we have 9 actors that have portrayed Batman. Some in cartoons, some in live action. I know there's a lot more voice actors out there. I just have not seen all the mediums, so there's no way I was going to be able to dive into all of those. But with these 9 actors, we are going to be ranking them from worst to best as who is my favorite Batman / Bruce Wayne, because we gotta include that as well. Make sure guys to leave your guys' thoughts, comments down below, hit that like and subscribe button, and let's dive into this ranking. Coming down at my number 9 in last place is George Clooney. George Clooney, for me, I feel like with better material possibly could have been a fantastic Batman and Bruce Wayne. For me, he doesn't succeed on either. As Batman, he's just snarky, not really feeling the vibe of it, and especially with what has already been established in these world that they had created from, of course, Tim Burton's. It just doesn't feel like the Batman that I would like. And then even as Bruce Wayne, for me, it also just doesn't come together. He doesn't feel like either of the iterations that I would even come to imagine. And again, a lot of that is material. George Clooney is a fantastic actor, so I would imagine that he would be possibly better with better material. Coming down at my number 8, this is mostly due to just my feelings and especially my age, and that is Adam West. Adam West is a really good Bruce Wayne and Batman for the time period he was in. As of nowadays, it's very cheesy, kooky, and really much does not hold up for at least my age. You go back and look at my dad, my grandmother, anyone in that age range, they love Adam West, and I know a lot of people do. So again, even though he's at number 8, it's just a personal preference here. I think he is a good version of those, but not the version that I love. And now at my number 7 is Will Arnett. Yes, Will Arnett voiced Batman in the Lego Batman movie, and what's there to say? This was very much just a satire on the Batman franchise, but as well as an emotional core to what makes Batman really much Batman. And I think Will Arnett actually did a great job doing the voice here, especially when it comes down to Batman. As Bruce Wayne, he's just Bruce Wayne, but as Batman, Will Arnett kills it, especially with doing the deep, dark voice, I'm the Batman. That voice has always been important to the character, no matter what medium we see, but I love Will Arnett's voice in there, and I thought he did a decent job. I would have really liked a sequel to the Lego Batman 2. And at my number 6 now, it is Val Kilmer. Now, I think Val Kilmer, while his movie has a complete tonal clash hitting each other, when it comes down to just him, it's like he is in a completely different movie than everybody else. And he's doing great for the movie that he's trying to be in. When it gets all insanity and everything like that, it does not work out at all. But man, may I say, Val Kilmer might be one of the more underrated choices for Bruce Wayne. As Batman, he's decent. I don't think there's a lot of flair to him as Batman, but as a Bruce Wayne, that is what elevated him to my number 6 spot. And honestly, on the last rewatch I just did, I was so impressed. I sat there, I was like, I would have loved to see Val Kilmer do another Batman movie because he was fantastic in this. I do love the depth. It actually feels like a Bruce Wayne, and it feels like that playboy, and as well as just some of the business decisions that he has to make throughout this. The writing does help that at times, but again, the clashing of tones is what holds him back just a hair. We got 5 more actors to talk about with Batman, and guys, I gotta remind you, make sure to leave your comments down below. What is your ranking of all the Batman actors? Which ones did I not include that you wish I did? As well, guys, just make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so we can keep talking movies and TV over here on a daily basis. And if there's any sort of Batman videos you guys still want me to do, I'm planning on a live spoiler discussion on Saturday. But if there's any other videos you'd like me to try out, let's hear it down below. Now, at my number 5 is Michael Keaton. Now, after we see The Flash and Batgirl, this possibly could go up just because that adds 2 more films that we've gotten with Michael Keaton in the role. But for just the sample size that we have, I love Michael Keaton as Batman. I actually think he is a fantastic Batman. His Bruce Wayne, I think, is decent and good. But again, a lot of that does go to the writing, and it feels like Tim Burton really much had more fun playing around with the Batman element than anything coincide with the actual Bruce Wayne element. I'm very curious to see if that element is elevated in getting an older Bruce Wayne inside The Flash and Batgirl. But as of right now, just the size that we have to judge it from, he's the typical Bruce Wayne that you would expect from the comics or even any other adaptation that you had seen. I like him as Bruce Wayne. I love him as Batman, and especially his suit is a big thing, which I didn't even mention that the suits do have a big way of like me actually rating these as well as how much I do love the suit. So all that is coinciding into this. At my number 4, it is Kevin Conroy's voice as Batman and Bruce Wayne. I'm a major lover of the Batman and the animated series. Now, if Kevin Conroy had for some reason had gone live action, which I think he did in the CW, then maybe this would go a little bit higher, but I never watched the CW shit, so I wouldn't be able to tell you anything from there. I'm just judging it from his voice and how iconic it is. Now, I debated not even including voice actors, but it would be a shame for me not to include Kevin Conroy in here. So in my heart, he would be number 1, like he is the iconic Batman voice. But for this ranking, we're going to have to put him at number 4 because he is a cartoon. And he's only been in one movie, technically, like actual movie-wise, which is Batman: Mask of the Phantasm. Very underrated. That makes my number 3 Ben Affleck's Batman, who I find to be completely underrated. And I put him at my number 3, 1, because he never got a solo film. Both the films he was in were, again, tie-in movies, and The Flash is the same thing. He's probably going to just have a cameo in there. For me, I think I would have liked a little bit more Bruce Wayne. But I do love what we got from Bruce Wayne in here. And I do love that he's kind of like this older version, not as old as Michael Keaton will be in The Flash, but I do like, as of right now, the oldest version of Batman. A grizzled, kind of don't care, sick of Gotham, and just everything that he's kind of put under, especially with the death of Robin in his life. And I think for me, you see that hope kind of finish out and really much continue and finally come back to him within Zack Snyder's Justice League, which that's the version that we're going to be talking about. And I think he's fantastic in there. But for me, his version of Batman in there, I would have liked a little bit more too, even though I do think he's badass. And I think he probably is the most badass version of Batman because that warehouse scene is still one of the most iconic action scenes that we've gotten in Batman history yet. But for me, as it comes down to just Ben Affleck's Batman, a solo film would have bumped him up easily to my number 1 and kept him there. But as of right now, I love what Ben Affleck did with it. And it's time to move to my number 2. At my number 2, and the only reason he is at my number 2 right now is because of him barely being Bruce Wayne, and that is Robert Pattinson's Batman. For me, he is the definitive Batman. I think as a younger version of Batman, he is easily the best, most visceral, and honestly like what I would imagine certain Batman comics to hone in because he is the greatest detective, and we get that in here. That's easily what skyrocketed him to my number 2. Even though we don't get a lot of him as Bruce Wayne, and I would have liked a little bit more of him, but this is a crime noir story from Batman's perspective, and a little bit of Bruce Wayne sprinkled in and out when it needs to be there. And Bruce Wayne, I thought he did a fantastic job as well, especially in one moment in particular with Andy Serkis as Alfred that I thought was fantastic, and another one with Carmine Falcone. But seriously, Batman, he is vengeance, he's kicking ass, he's beating ass, and I fucking loved it. At my number 1, it is Christian Bale. On a personal level, I think I would still move Ben Affleck or Robert Pattinson above Christian Bale, but the thing that Christian Bale has over all of these other actors is he is the best interpretation of Bruce Wayne, who I think is a very important key piece of the Batman character. If you can't do Bruce Wayne perfectly, and again, the writing very much elevated Bruce Wayne in these films, then you can't do Batman perfectly. And I may have just contradicted myself because I've said I think Robert Pattinson is the best and definitive Batman when it comes down to the detective story. But looking at just this, I had to rise Christian Bale because if I look at all of them, I'm like, okay, all their Batmans are really good. I think Christian Bale's is a little bit under both of theirs, but they're both really, really good. But his Bruce Wayne is easily the best. It's the one that got the most development so far, and again, maybe in the future Robert Pattinson's does, and this he easily goes up to my number 1 if I do another one of these rankings. But for me, as of right now, Christian Bale absolutely kills it as Bruce Wayne. Looking at it as Batman, even though his voice is completely memed to hell, like, I'm the Batman! I don't care! Which is kind of how I feel right now. I don't care what you guys think of my thoughts. I just want to hear yours. Christian Bale is that iconic character, and I think he is fantastic as Batman and Bruce Wayne. But again, I prefer Ben Affleck's Batman, and I definitely prefer Robert Pattinson's Batman as well. I just needed more Bruce Wayne from both of those, but for me, Christian Bale does nail it. And arguably, even though I do think The Batman is probably the best Batman movie yet, that's what I said in my movie ranking, spoilers if you haven't watched that yet, I think Christian Bale obviously has the most iconic ones yet, and it bumped him up to my number 1 for now. Again, all of that could change with Robert Pattinson continuing, with Michael Keaton continuing, when maybe I'll even have to include Leslie Grace's Batgirl in here. Who knows? But thank you again, guys, so much for watching this. You guys are really all the best. Make sure to leave a comment, your thoughts, your likes, all those things down below. I can't wait to hear your guys' thoughts. So, of course, until next time, stay classy, and keep being vengeance.